Hey guys, tonight we drift into the hush between clouds and stone to follow a droplet's first breath as it's born in the high, cold air above the mountains. You can almost taste the thinness of that altitude, the metallic bite of ice, the stillness broken only by wind whispering through snow-fed crags. Up here, the world feels both impossibly vast and intimately close. Every molecule a potential beginning. You probably wouldn't survive being shrunk down to atom size, but we'll try anyway to see what a single particle of water feels, suspended in the sky. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You hover where cold air condenses into mist, a meeting of vapor and dust, invisible until it isn't. In this fragile moment, temperature and pressure collaborate to craft the first crystal seed of a droplet. Around microscopic particles of salt or soot, water vapor gathers, forming spheres that glimmer in the mountain sun. Houze, 2012. Each one begins as a secret, a whisper of hydrogen bonds clicking together, aligning like dancers. These mountains breathe water into the world. As the day warms, air currents curl upward, carrying moisture from forests and lakes below. The rising air cools with altitude, and water molecules slow their frantic dance. When they can no longer stay vapor, they cling to the nearest solid surface, a fleck of dust, a grain of pollen, even volcanic ash, and there, the droplet is born. Scientists call this nucleation, the quiet moment when potential turns to form. Wallace and Hobbes, 2006. If you could listen closely, you'd hear it. The faint crackle of condensation, the tiniest applause of molecules finding home. The newborn droplets drift, merging and parting in the swirling breath of the atmosphere. They form clouds, colossal, living sculptures of vapor that billow and fade like thought itself. The mountains below stand as patient sculptors. Their jagged ridges and shifting winds decide where clouds gather and where they break apart. Orographic lift, the way moist air rises and cools as it meets mountain slopes, transforms geography into a weather maker. Without these towering shapes, rain would fall differently, unevenly, and entire ecosystems might never have existed. Barry, 2008. In this thin air, every droplet carries memory, minerals swept from ancient seas, dust from deserts halfway across the planet, even fragments of cosmic particles from meteor trails. Water connects continents, not just through rivers, but through vapor, an invisible thread of continuity stretching through the troposphere. You float inside that thread, seeing how sunlight filters through the cloud's edge. The light scatters into a million hues, soft violets at dawn, burning gold at dusk. For a moment, it feels as though the entire sky breathes in unison. Maybe the universe just loves to repeat patterns, condensation, birth, release, and return like a lullaby in slow motion. The temperature dips, droplets collide, merge, and grow heavier. Soon they'll fall the next chapter in their endless pilgrimage. But for now, you linger at the peak of the world, where air is sacred and silence tastes like beginnings. The droplet you follow trembles on the edge of transformation, shimmering like a thought about to take shape. From here, gravity waits below, patient, inevitable, calling every droplet home. The whisper of water has begun. You fall. At first, it feels like floating, a gentle release from the cool grip of cloud. The droplet tumbles through miles of open air, surrounded by billions of siblings, each tracing its own shimmering path toward the earth below. The world stretches wide and white beneath you, and the air hums with descent. Inside this falling dance, physics takes over. A raindrop isn't a perfect sphere as we often imagine. It begins nearly round, held together by surface tension, the invisible film born from water molecules clinging to each other with tiny electric embraces. But as air resistance presses upward, the droplet flattens slightly, bulging like a miniature jelly bean in freefall. This delicate shape, balanced between cohesion and drag, defines how every drop sings on its way down. Pruppacher Klett, 1997. You drift among droplets of every size. The small ones, barely half a millimeter wide, hang light in the air, swaying like dust motes in slow motion. The larger ones, the ones you can feel on your skin, fall faster but never forever. When they grow too heavy, the airflow beneath them breaks apart their fragile balance, and they split, becoming smaller drops again. It's a cycle of breaking and merging that repeats all the way to the ground, an airborne echo of rivers and deltas yet to come. Thunder murmurs in the distance. Clouds churn like grey oceans. Within them, electric charges build ions separating, recombining, preparing for a lightning strike. But for most raindrops, the world is quieter, the soundless weight of gravity pulling them through veils of mist and shifting air. Somewhere below, the wind twists upward, catching you mid-descent. You swirl in an eddy, spiraling briefly back toward the sky before surrendering again to gravity's pull. Scientists call this terminal velocity. The moment when a droplet's downward pull equals the resistance of the air, pushing upward about 9 meters per second for a mid-sized raindrop. Rogers and Yao, 1989. Yet, to you, it feels like gliding an unhurried surrender to inevitability. The air is cooler now, denser, scented faintly of pine resin and stone. You can almost hear the forest breathing beneath the storm, waiting. Each leaf stretches upward, as though in prayer. Every droplet's fall is a soft percussion on soil and bark, 1,000 delicate rhythms composing the sound of rain. The storm becomes an orchestra. High above, droplets collide with ice crystals, breaking into mist. Midway down, warm currents sculpt ribbons of vapor that shimmer like silk, and near the ground, billions of droplets merge their notes into a single, patient whisper. The air itself vibrates with the resonance of falling water, the kind of sound that lulls both infants and forests to sleep. Dalbechi's, Talley, 2020. You land softly on a mossy stone at the mountain's foot. Around you, the world ripples. Other droplets strike the surface of a nearby pond, creating expanding circles that overlap and vanish. Each ring of disturbance is a signature, a small broadcast of energy that dissipates quietly into peace. As you rest there, you realize something profound. Every drop that falls is both ending and beginning. What was vapor is now liquid. What cooled in the sky will soon carve valleys and nourish roots. Rain is not just weather, it is memory in motion. Maybe that's why rain feels familiar, why humans pause to watch it, to listen. Somewhere deep in your molecular structure lies the same rhythm that shaped rivers, glaciers, and oceans, long before there were eyes to see them. The fall is not destruction, it's reunion. And as you settle into the soil's gentle grip, you can feel the pulse of the next chapter, the first touch of Earth, where gravity's story merges with life's. You land softly, almost soundlessly, on the waiting Earth. For a moment, there's nothing, no splash, no echo, only the quiet embrace of soil. It's cool and alive beneath you, its scent rising like the breath of ancient forests. Each grain of sand, each shard of clay, stretches invisible arms toward you. The earth drinks you in. At first, you slide through a maze of tiny spaces, pores between mineral grains. It feels like drifting through cathedrals of silence, light refracted by roots and tiny quartz walls. The soil is not empty. It's an ecosystem in miniature, where bacteria shimmer like constellations and microscopic fungi weave silken highways through darkness. Here, you are not just absorbed, you are welcomed. Scientists call this the infiltration phase, the moment when surface water enters the ground and becomes part of the hidden cycle that sustains all green life. Bear, 2018. Capillary forces, those invisible threads of tension that let water defy gravity, pull you downward and sideways, seeking equilibrium. The soil decides your path, guided by texture and structure. Sand releases you quickly. Clay clings and whispers, stay. You seep deeper. Around you, roots extend like veins, exuding sugars and signals. A root hair brushes past, delicate, translucent, and the osmotic dance begins. Through membranes so fine they seem imaginary, you cross into living tissue. Water potential gradients drive you forward, pull gently towards cells that thirst for you. Studel, 2001. Inside that root, the world changes. You are now part of a slow, steady river, moving upward, pulled by transpiration, the invisible breath of leaves. Each molecule ahead of you tugs on the next, creating an unbroken chain from soil to sky. Cohesion and adhesion, two simple physical principles, make this miracle possible. Without them, trees would never stand tall. Life would never reach toward light. Talley, 2015. You rise briefly before slipping free again, filtering back into the dark labyrinth of loam. The soil pulses with microlife. Protozoa glide past like gentle comets. Threads of mycorrhizal fungi shimmer faintly, passing not just nutrients but messages between trees. You, a single droplet, become part of an underground conversation older than language itself. Simard, 2021. The journey slows. You encounter a pebble, smooth and cold, a remnant of glaciers long gone. Around it, water gathers, forming a film no thicker than a thought. These films merge into tiny channels that feed into something larger, a trickle, a thread, a beginning of movement. This is how rivers are born, not with thunder, but with whispers. Above you, the rain fades. Sunlight filters through the canopy, turning droplets on leaves into sparks of gold. The air fills with the scent of wet pine and ozone. You drift deeper, feeling the steady pull of gravity, the gentle pressure of layers above. It's peaceful here, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Infiltration is not just a process, it's a rhythm. Every second, trillions of molecules repeat this descent across continents. They vanish into the earth, only to rise again somewhere else in fog, in fruit, in blood. It's a choreography of renewal so constant we hardly notice it. Maybe that's the secret lesson of this quiet phase, that transformation doesn't always need thunder or flash. Sometimes it begins in stillness, in the soft merging of droplet and dust. You linger there, in that hush beneath the world, knowing that somewhere below, a deeper current waits. The droplet you follow now, joined with countless others, begins to move again, threading through invisible capillaries toward an underground river. Beneath roots and rock, the whisper grows steadier. You're about to enter the hidden heart of the Earth's bloodstream. You descend further, leaving the root zone behind, into the quiet realm beneath where sunlight never reaches, and time stretches into patience. Here, the world is stone and silence, yet alive in its own slow way. You have become groundwater now, part of the Earth's invisible circulatory system. Around you, mineral walls glisten faintly with moisture. Each pore, each fracture in the rock, offers a path, though some are narrow as a whisper. The pressure is immense but constant, a soft squeeze rather than a crush. You drift through the aquifer, a hidden ocean held within the planet's bones. Gleeson et al., 2016. This underground world is mapped not by sight but by feeling: porosity, permeability, the resistance of clay, the openness of limestone. Some layers, like sandstone, are welcoming, porous, letting you move freely through their sandy lattices. Others, like shale, are fortress walls, trapping you for centuries or even millennia. Freeze and cherry, 1979. You sense your neighbor's other droplets that have been here for ages. Some began their journey during the Ice Age, sealed beneath layers of permafrost. Others fell as last year's rain, still fresh with the scent of clouds. Together, you drift in the same slow river that hums beneath deserts, forests, and cities alike. Scientists call this hidden motion groundwater flow, a gradual migration driven by gravity and pressure differences. It's so slow that a droplet like you might move only a few meters in a year, or less. Yet this quiet persistence keeps springs flowing, wells replenished, and wetlands alive. Water that seems still is always becoming. Toth, 1963. As you move, the earth transforms you. Ions dissolve from rock into your body: calcium, magnesium, iron minerals that will someday nourish life above. The chemistry of your passage becomes a record of your journey, a liquid fingerprint of the landscape itself. Occasionally, you pass through caverns where the ceiling glows faintly from bioluminescent bacteria, living on the edge of darkness. Stalactites drip slowly from above, each drop carrying stories from higher layers. You pause to listen. The sound is steady, patient, an echo that could be mistaken for the heartbeat of the planet. In these subterranean corridors, even life finds a way. Tiny blind fish glide through limestone pools. Bacteria cling to mineral veins, feeding on chemical gradients instead of sunlight. They transform inorganic compounds into energy, building entire ecosystems in the dark. Stevens and McKinley, 1995. You join this slowness, this persistence. There's no rush here, only the endless negotiation between water and stone. Some of your companions will remain entombed for centuries, sealed into deep aquifers under layers of impermeable rock. Others, like you, will find a fissure, a crack, an escape route upward. As you rise through that narrow path, pressure eases. You can almost sense the faint vibration of footsteps on the surface, perhaps an animal drinking from a stream fed by your hidden flow. You will meet that stream soon, after miles of silent travel. Before you leave this subterranean peace, you pause one last time to listen. The water here does not roar or rush, it murmurs. A low, continuous hum of existence, a reminder that most of Earth's water moves unseen. Beneath the chaos of weather and wave, this slow heartbeat keeps balance. Storing, releasing, regulating. Maybe the universe understands that silence is not emptiness, it's endurance. Down here, in the quiet belly of the world, you realize that even stillness can be alive. You begin to rise toward daylight again. Above you, the soil thins, rocks open, and a faint shimmer of movement appears ahead, the gathering of veins, where hidden waters become visible rivers once more. You emerge from darkness, slipping through a crevice where sunlight filters in as a trembling thread of gold. The air smells faintly of moss and cool stone. You have reached the spring. After the long silence of subterranean time, the world feels almost loud. Each droplet that joins you hums with quiet relief, as if exhaling after centuries underground. You gather into a trickle, then a rivulet. The ground slopes, gravity urges, and what was once still begins to move with purpose. Other droplets arrive from their own hidden corridors, merging with you until the trickle becomes a song. Together, you carve a path downhill, the first heartbeat of a stream. Scientists describe this as surface runoff, merging with base flow, the moment when groundwater and surface water meet, forming the visible veins of Earth. Leopold and Wolman, 1960. Yet to you, it feels like reunion. Each molecule, shaped by its own journey, now flows in chorus, obeying the same gentle slope. The terrain itself decides your rhythm. Soft soils let you meander. Granite cliffs make you leap and shout. You wind past ferns, whose fronds glisten with your spray. You slip beneath fallen logs, where insects gather to drink, their wings trembling in your mist. The air carries your scent, petrichor, and memory. When sunlight catches your surface, it scatters in 1,000 rippling diamonds, each one a brief echo of the sky you left behind. As you descend, the valley opens. Tributaries join first dozens, then hundreds, weaving together in patterns that seem chaotic, but aren't. The branching geometry follows the laws of fractal design. Repetition across scale, rivers that resemble roots, lungs, lightning, and leaf veins. The universe loves its patterns, endlessly reusing them. Mandelbrot, 1983. You rush faster now, a voice gaining confidence. Stones beneath you are sculpted by your touch. Each collision wears them smoother, rounding their edges, etching grooves that speak of time measured not in years but in centuries. Erosion is not destruction. It is artistry at geological tempo. As you flow, the land changes you, and you change it. The stream cuts deeper, carving canyons grain by grain. Trees bend toward you, their roots tasting your edges. Animals trace your banks, leaving footprints that last only until the next rain. Everything that lives here is drawn to your song, for where there is water, there is memory, and where there is memory, there is life. You pass through a meadow where dragonflies hover like blue sparks above your surface. The current splits and rejoins around stones, murmuring in tones too soft to name. Scientists call this turbulent laminar interplay, layers of flow folding over one another, creating eddies, spirals, and miniature whirlpools. Garcia et al., 2005. But to you, it feels like breathing. Inhale, exhale, forward, always forward. Night falls. Moonlight replaces sunlight on your ripples, turning silver to ink. You sense the pull of gravity guiding you towards something greater, a river that waits beyond the forest. Each fork and merge brings you closer, and each drop carries traces of every mountain you've touched. Maybe, you think, this is what connection truly means. Not staying whole, but becoming part of something larger through constant joining, constant letting go. The stream that is you will soon meet another, and another, until individuality dissolves into unity. By dawn, your whisper becomes a murmur, your murmur a roar. The valley walls amplify your voice. You've grown from a droplet into a current capable of moving stone, feeding roots, shaping continents in your patient way. Ahead, the land dips and widens. The river waits, vast and ancient, ready to receive you. You are no longer a droplet, you are part of the gathering veins of earth. You join the river at dawn. The first light of the sun shatters across the surface, and suddenly, the water seems alive with movement and sound. This is no quiet trickle. This is motion-turn music, the endless dialogue between flow and form. Every bend, every riffle, every leap over stone speaks a language older than wind. You feel it immediately, the pulse of turbulence. Beneath your surface, invisible spirals churn, vortices within vortices, each one reshaping the river's song. Scientists describe this as chaotic yet patterned motion, energy cascading from large swirls into smaller ones, until it vanishes as heat and sound. Garcia et al. 2005. You, the molecule, ride through these spirals like a dancer caught between order and wildness. The sound of the river is not random. It's a map of motion rendered in tone. Fast water hums in higher frequencies, while deep, slow stretches murmur in bass notes. Together, they form what hydrologists sometimes call the acoustic fingerprint of flow, the way each river sings its own geometry. Müller et al. 2018. To your tiny, fluid ears, it sounds like conversation water telling rock the story of gravity. You rush past smooth boulders, their faces polished by centuries of touch. At certain curves, the current hugs one side tighter, eroding it little by little, while on the other, sediments settle gently into bars of sand. It's a dynamic dance, erosion and deposition, loss and creation, balancing each other over eons. Leopold et al. 1964. Tiny air bubbles burst beside you, each releasing a soft plink. If you could see it slowed down, you'd notice that every bubble collapse sends a microshock through the water a minute. Explosion that helps wear stone smoother, a symphony of invisible chisels shaping the riverbed grain by grain. Around you, life listens. Trout hover in the shadows, using the currents to hold position effortlessly. Water striders skate across the mirrored surface, tracing ripples that echo your passage. A heron stands still in the shallows, patient as time itself. Even insects beneath the surface feel your vibration, navigating by the faint rhythm of your movement. As the sun climbs, mist rises, your breath returning to the sky. Each droplet that escapes carries heat upward, cooling the river's skin and feeding new clouds. The cycle is self-sustaining, a perfect feedback loop. Water flowing, evaporating, condensing, falling again. The whisper of balance continues. You slow in a deep pool where the current gathers its thoughts. Here, the surface is glassy and reflective. You can see the world-inverted sky beneath you, trees swaying upside down. Beneath that mirror, cold water moves silently, layered and stratified by density. Temperature and motion weave a gradient that governs where fish swim, where nutrients drift, where life concentrates. The river is never uniform. It's a living mosaic of physics and biology, interwoven. Ward et al. 2002. You continue onward, through rapids that roar like applause, and through meanders that cradle you like lullabies. In every sound, you hear the dialogue of elements, stone and water negotiating form. The loudest parts of the river are also the most alive. Oxygen churned in, sediments lifted, energy shared, silence and roar, balance and change. Maybe, you think, the river's voice is what the planet sounds like when it remembers how to breathe. Each collision, each curve, is a lesson in resilience. How movement creates shape, how resistance gives birth to song. By evening, the valley glows amber. You've carried seeds, silt, and light, feeding everything in your path. You are no longer the droplet that once fell from cloud to mountain. You've become a current, a force, a note in the earth's long composition. Ahead lies the great turning, the place where fresh water meets the salt. There, the song will change again, softer but deeper, as the river begins to whisper to the sea. You widen. The valley flattens and the air grows heavier, scented faintly with salt. The river slows its heartbeat, trading mountain pulse for tidal rhythm. Ahead, the horizon blurs, water meeting water, current folding into current. This is the estuary, the earth's softest threshold. Here, fresh and salt entwine like old friends who know each other's tempers. Your molecules begin to mingle with those of the sea, pushed and pulled by invisible tides. The dance is not abrupt but slow, layered, like the blending of dawn into daylight. Scientists call this delicate meeting zone a salinity gradient, a transition shaped by tides, river discharge, and wind trill. 2002. To you, it feels like being translated, one language of water merging into another. You drift past reeds whose roots breathe through the mud. Fiddler crabs trace circles at your edges, their tiny claws glinting in the amber light. The air hums with life: mosquitoes, frogs, herons, and unseen fish moving beneath your surface. Estuaries may seem quiet, but they are among the most biologically productive ecosystems on Earth. Nurseries where life rehearses its first chapters. Day et Talley, 2012. The river's minerals mix with the ocean's nutrients, creating a potion that glows with plankton. Sunlight refracts through suspended sediments, painting the water in shifting colors: green where algae bloom, brown where silt dances, silver where fish flash. From above, this patchwork looks like a lung: oxygen breathing in, carbon breathing out. In this mixing, you feel a gentle conflict. Salt water presses inland with the tide, fresh water pushes outward with the current. Between them, turbulence spins, layers fold and twist, generating internal waves invisible to the eye. Physicists call these density-driven circulations complex, elegant motions that help distribute oxygen and nutrients throughout the estuary. Simpson and Hunter, 1974. You just feel it as rhythm, the planet's slow inhale and exhale. Occasionally, the tide retreats, revealing mudflats glistening like bronze mirrors. Wading birds descend, their reflections walking beside them. They leave tracks that the next tide will erase: messages written to no one, read by everyone. You can't help but admire the poetry of impermanence here. Beneath you, eelgrass waves in slow choreography. Its blades shelter tiny fish and crustaceans, offering refuge from the open sea. Each movement of the tide brings nutrients and carries away waste, keeping this watery cradle balanced. The estuary doesn't just connect river and ocean, it connects life to its beginnings. And yet, you notice the subtle touch of humankind. A trace of fertilizer drifts downstream, the faint shimmer of oil near a dock. Even here, in this sacred meeting place, the human signature is written into the current. Scientists studying estuarine health note rising nitrogen loads, hypoxic zones, and shifting salinity boundaries due to climate change and urban runoff. Kenish, 2002. The whispers of imbalance mingle with the tide. Still, life persists. Oysters filter your body clean, each shell holding a miniature universe of algae and plankton. Marsh grasses root deeply, trapping sediments and building land molecule by molecule. Every living thing here works in quiet cooperation, holding the edges of land and sea together. You, too, participate in this ancient choreography, now fresh, now brackish, now salt. You've shed your mountain clarity, gained the sea's mineral memory. The sounds around you deepen, gulls calling, waves sighing, the muted percussion of water meeting shore. As night falls, the estuary becomes glass again. The moon paints a silver path across your rippled surface. You feel both arrival and departure stirring within you soon. You'll drift fully into the sea, the planet's great cradle of motion. Maybe that's the beauty of this place, that nothing ends or begins here. Everything mingles, everything transforms. The river you were still flows through you, even as the ocean calls you home. You cross the invisible line and become ocean. The taste of salt deepens, mineral and ancient, and the river's sweet voice dissolves into the symphony of the sea. The horizon stretches endlessly, curving like the breath of the planet itself. For the first time, you feel small, not because you are alone, but because you are everywhere. All around you, water moves in layered dances, surface waves shimmering under sunlight, deeper currents whispering across continents. You are caught within a single pulse of the global ocean conveyor, the great thermohaline circulation that stitches all the world's seas into one body. Talley et al., 2011. Driven by differences in temperature and salinity, this invisible river within the ocean transports warmth and life from the tropics to the poles, and cold memory back again. You drift at the surface first, among planktonic drifters that glitter like dust in a golden beam. Each one breathes light, photosynthetic algae that transforms sunlight into oxygen, crafting the air that land creatures will one day inhale. They are small, yet together they forge half the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. Field et Talley, 1998. You float among them, invisible and essential. Below you, shadows thicken into blues, then indigo, then black. The deeper you descend, the colder it grows, the more time stretches. Pressure builds around you, not crushing, but comforting, as though the ocean itself is holding you close. Down here, sunlight fades completely, replaced by glimmers of life that create their own stars. Lanternfish drift in constellations, jellyfish pulse in slow ballet, bacteria glimmer on hydrothermal vents, transforming chemical energy into sustenance. Even in darkness, water finds a way to kindle light. Van Dover, 2000. Currents tug at you gently, weaving you into gyres, vast spirals that organize the chaos of the sea. The North Pacific Gyre, the Gulf Stream, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, each a colossal loop, each guiding trillions of your kind through cycles that span centuries. If you could rise above the planet, you'd see these motions as veins glowing faintly across blue skin. Yet even in this grandeur, your journey continues with humility. Evaporation begins, the sun calling to you from above. The surface warms, molecules vibrate faster, bonds loosen. You feel yourself lighten, rising once more. You'll leave the sea behind, not as farewell but as renewal. The cycle asks for return, always. Before you go, you glance across the surface one last time. Coral reefs shimmer below like living cities, colonies of polyps building limestone cathedrals molecule by molecule. Fish move through them in flashes of color and pattern. The water here hums with energy, each organism linked to the next through chemistry, hunger, and grace. Yet you also see the quiet, fading, bleached coral skeletons where heat has lingered too long. Scientists record these changes with growing urgency. Ocean acidification, warming, rising tides, IPCC, 2021. Even the sea, vast as it is, remembers everything we do. Still, in its depths, resilience hums. Whales migrate along ancient routes, their low songs vibrating through thousands of miles, guiding others who will never see their faces. Their voices travel through you deep, patient, echoing the same frequencies as the planet's own resonance. You carry their song upward as vapor, one final offering from ocean to sky. As you rise, sunlight catches your surface once again. The boundary between sea and air glows with mirrors of gold. Tiny salt crystals form and fall, marking your passage upward. You are part of the great breath again, the exhalation of the ocean into atmosphere. Maybe, you think, this is how the earth dreams water, moving endlessly between solid, liquid, and vapor, always changing, never lost. You drift upward until you are no longer liquid at all, just mist, light enough to fly. The sky opens, and you remember the mountains where you began. The cycle has no beginning, no end, only rhythm, only return. You rise higher into the sky, not alone, but surrounded by a chorus of vapor, each molecule shimmering, weightless, transformed. Below you stretches the endless blue of the ocean you've left behind, now reduced to a mirage of moving light. Above you, the sun glows like a slow heartbeat, and the air begins to cool once again. You're back in the domain of clouds, but this time, you understand their architecture. What seems to the eye like a soft cotton sky is, in truth, a cathedral of physics. Here, the builders are invisible, microscopic particles known as aerosols, suspended bits of salt, soot, pollen, or even bacteria that serve as scaffolds for condensation. Rosenfeld et al., 2014. Each one whispers to passing vapor, "Come rest here." Become something visible again. You, a molecule of water, drift close to one such seed, a grain of desert dust that has traveled thousands of kilometers through air currents. You cling to its surface, joined by others, until together you form a droplet. Multiply this moment by 1,000,000,000, and the sky fills with shape. Cumulus, cirrus, stratus. The handwriting of the atmosphere itself. Wallace and Hobbes, 2006. The cloud thickens. Sunlight filters through in luminous shafts, creating a soft chiaroscuro across the air. To the human eye, it's a painting of serenity. To you, it's bustling life. Inside, droplets collide, merge, and separate again, exchanging charges that will one day spark lightning. The cloud breathes, expands, contracts alive, though not alive in any way biology defines. Scientists studying cloud microphysics often describe them as engines of climate dynamic factories that regulate Earth's temperature, reflect sunlight, and sculpt rainfall patterns. Stevens, 2005. Yet standing, or rather floating, inside one, you feel something humbler: balance. Each vapor, each particle, obeys a choreography older than language, newer than each dawn. The wind picks up. You're carried higher still, toward colder altitudes. Around you, droplets freeze into tiny ice crystals, hexagonal and perfect, falling in slow spirals. They glint like fragments of stars. Some join into clusters snowflakes that will descend softly one day. Others, like you, remain vapor, moving toward the cloud's outer edge where warmth waits. At the boundaries of the cloud, the world blazes. You look outward through the mist and see a halo, a circle of light formed when sunlight refracts through billions of droplets like you. Pilots call this a glory, an optical echo of one's own shadow surrounded by rings of color. You realize then that even light finds ways to join your story. Minette, 1993. Beneath you, the sea mirrors the sky, both filled with turbulence, both sculpted by temperature and energy. The ocean gave you breath. Now the sky gives you purpose. Soon you will fall again, back toward the waiting mountains, the forests, the soil. But before that, you linger in the high quiet, where the air is thin and the view endless. Up here, the world seems fragile, a delicate membrane of moisture holding all of life's possibility. 1 degree colder, and global winds would shift. 1 particle more, and storms would rise. Water's whispers decide the rhythm of climate itself. You sense the beginning of condensation once more. Tiny droplets around you grow heavy. The cloud darkens slightly, its lower edges sagging with potential rain. Somewhere below, sunlight warms the ocean again, beginning the next cycle of ascent. The whole planet exhales and inhales, endlessly. Maybe, you think, this is what eternity feels like. Not a static forever, but motion without end, repetition that becomes harmony. You drift slowly downward, through mist that tastes faintly of salt and ozone, through light that glows like memory. Beneath you, mountain peaks pierce the cloud deck, waiting with open arms. The journey continues, and so does the whisper of water. You drift downward through air so cold it hums. The mist around you solidifies, crystallizing into forms so intricate that no two are alike, yet all obey the same geometry of 6. You've become ice now, a frozen whisper suspended in slow descent. Within your lattice of symmetry lies memory, temperature, humidity, and the chaotic beauty of chance. Libbrecht, 2005. Sunlight glances off your edges. Each face reflects at a slightly different angle, scattering the spectrum into pale rainbows. From a distance, you are just one flake among billions. Up close, you are a cathedral of math and air. Physicists describe the birth of snow crystals as a dance of vapor deposition. Water molecules locking onto ice nuclei in spirals of hexagonal precision. Nikaya, 1954. You, however, feel it as stillness, a pause between breaths. The air thickens, clouds sag heavier, and gravity resumes its pull. You fall softly, spinning through sunlight and shadow, through the clean silence of winter. Every swirl of wind carves your descent into a different story. Some of your companions fall into forests, others to glaciers or rooftops. You drift toward the mountain that first birthed you. As you land, the sound is almost imperceptible, a whisper upon a whisper. You join others, piling slowly into a soft white blanket. Together you form snowpack, compressing layer upon layer as the days pass. Each stratum holds a record. The chemistry of the air, traces of volcanic dust, the faint fingerprints of distant fires. Scientists read these layers like pages in time, decoding the climate's shifting moods across centuries. Ali, 2000. Winter deepens. The surface hardens. Crystals fuse into fern. Granular ice dense as memory. Beneath, you feel pressure build, squeezing air bubbles into tiny globes of atmosphere trapped in suspension. These bubbles, preserved for millennia, will one day tell future humans how warm, how cold, how alive the planet once was. You are part of Earth's diary now. In the cold, time stretches. Weeks, months, seasons all reduced to the rhythm of freeze and thaw. Occasionally, The sun touches your surface, melting your edge just enough to send rivulets trickling downward. They refreeze at night, layering transparency over opacity. Each cycle tightens your crystalline grip until you are no longer snow, but ice blue, clear, immense. You've become part of a glacier, and glaciers move slowly, impossibly slowly. Gravity coaxes the entire mountain of ice downhill. Beneath you, bedrock grinds, sculpting valleys in silence. The glacier's motion is measured in inches per day, yet over centuries it reshapes continents. It's patient, implacable, like time itself wearing a face of water. You hear the occasional groan of ice cracking, the thunder of carving as blocks break and tumble into fjords. Each fracture releases a sound so deep it vibrates through your frozen lattice. You've traded the whisper of rain for the bass note of eternity. When spring comes, meltwater returns, small streams trickling from beneath the glacier's belly. You slip free, liquid again, carrying with you the mineral dust and compressed air of ages. The taste of time lingers in every drop. Down the slope you rush, rejoining sunlight, trees, and the living pulse of soil. Maybe, you think, every freeze is just preparation for another flow. The universe pauses only to gather itself before moving again. You turn once more toward the valley, older now, clearer, carrying the memory of ancient winters within your body. Ahead lies the world of humans, the next convergence in water's long pilgrimage. You flow down from the melting glacier, joining a stream that winds through a valley carved by your ancestors. Around you, the landscape hums with green, again moss, birch, willow. But this time, as you drift, you meet something new, the imprint of human hands. The riverbanks bear lines that are not natural levees, channels, bridges. Your current passes through concrete gates and turbines that hum with steady power. You've entered the realm of humanity, where water is not only life but also currency, current, and control. From the mountains to the plains, people have followed your path, drawing you into pipes and pumps. You slip through filters, through treatment plants where ultraviolet light flashes like sterile lightning, stripping away bacteria. In the city, you are divided into purposes, some for drinking, some for washing, some to cool engines or nourish crops. You, who once drifted free, now move at the command of valves and algorithms. Scientists estimate that over 70% of fresh water withdrawn from the planet each year is used for agriculture. The silent irrigation that feeds billions, Verasmati, et Alii, 2010. Through channels and sprinklers, you spread across fields of wheat, rice, and corn, soaking soil engineered for maximum yield. You rise again as vapor from the leaves of plants, part of a system vast enough to feed civilizations, yet fragile enough to falter with a single drought. Some of your companions take another route, into factories, cooling steel, washing silicon chips, becoming part of the veins of industry. Others flow through cities, into fountains that catch light, or along gutters that lead to drains. Everywhere, you mirror humanity's choices, how they shape the earth, and how the earth responds. But even here, you remain yourself. When released, you gather again in rivers that carry whispers of fertilizer, trace metals, microplastics, the signatures of modern life. Downstream, scientists detect you in places untouched by people. Deep ocean trenches, Arctic snow, even the rain, UNEP, 2023. The planet's veins now hold both memory and warning. Still, humanity listens. Along your banks, restoration projects rise. Wetlands reborn, where farmland once sprawled. Dams re-engineered to let salmon return. Engineers model you with satellites and supercomputers, tracing each molecule to understand the cycle that sustains everything. Famiglietti, 2014. Children learn to measure your clarity, to name you not as resource but as relative. You weave through a city at night, reflecting lights that shimmer like stars fallen to earth. People gather by your edge, laughing, thinking, letting their thoughts drift on your current. They don't know you've been here longer than their ancestors, longer than their myths. They call you river, stream, lake, but really, you are time made liquid. Perhaps, you muse, it's only fitting that humans see themselves in you. They too move in cycles. Thirst, fulfillment, renewal. They too erode and reshape, destroy and heal. Maybe that's why they're drawn to your sound. The same low whisper that began among the mountains still speaks to them here, through the hum of cities. Eventually, you leave the human world behind. Concrete gives way to mudflats, lights to starlight. The river widens once more, and you sense the pull of the sea ahead. The world grows quiet again, save for one sound, a whisper, not of machines, but of tide. Before you merge again with the estuary, you glance back. Above the skyline, steam rises from towers, clouds from chimneys, humanity's breath joining yours in the same eternal cycle. You realize then, even in control, they are still part of the rhythm. Every faucet, every tear, every storm is the same story told in different words. And so you flow onward, carrying not just minerals or silt, but memory, invention, and hope. The human thread has joined your current, for better or worse, and together you move toward the horizon. You drift once more into stillness, far from turbines and traffic, into the microscopic silence of life itself. If you could shrink now, to the size of a molecule again, you would see a different world, a universe contained within every cell that has ever breathed, grown, or dreamed. Inside this intimate realm, you are not just substance. You are structure, energy, possibility. Without you, there is no life. Every protein, every membrane, every spark of metabolism depends on the way you hold atoms together and pull them apart. You are the quiet intermediary between chaos and form. You move through the translucent corridors of a cell, where organelles float like planets in a gel of your own making. Around you, lipid bilayers shimmer thin as thoughts, yet strong enough to define existence. These fragile boundaries, formed by hydrophobic and hydrophilic dances, owe their very shape to you. You coax molecules to assemble, to align, to create the walls that separate inside from out. Chaplin, 2006. You enter a mitochondrion, the cell's tiny power plant. There, your atoms shuttle electrons along invisible chains, turning chemical gradients into the miracle of ATP, the molecule of life's work. Hydrogen bonds flicker open and closed, transferring charge in a choreography of milliseconds. You are the dancer and the stage, energy itself in motion. Nichols and Ferguson, 2013. Your structure is deceptively simple, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, yet your behavior defies expectation. You expand when frozen. You store heat with unmatched patience. You dissolve more substances than any other liquid known. Because of you, oceans moderate climate, blood carries oxygen, and trees drink skyward against gravity's will. Ball, 2008. In the body of an animal, you become pulse. You rush through arteries, carrying iron-bound oxygen to muscles. You cool the skin through sweat, transmit nerve signals through ion gradients, whispering instructions from brain to fingertip. When you evaporate from lungs, you carry away heat, returning again to air. Each breath is your small resurrection. Inside a leaf, you climb from root to stem, drawn by tension so subtle it can lift tons of sap. Through xylem vessels, you rise in single-file chains, each molecule holding hands with the next in unbroken faith. At the top, sunlight splits you apart. Photolysis, freeing electrons to feed photosynthesis, the alchemy that turns light into sugar and sugar into life. Taizet Ali, 2015. You are, quite literally, consciousness in liquid form. The neurons that shape thought and memory depend on your precise electric balance. Even dreams shimmer in your electrochemical tides. Without you, the mind would fall silent. You are thought's transparent mirror. Yet, for all your necessity, you ask for nothing. You flow through life's forms and leave them unchanged in essence, though never in memory. A child's tear, a whale's breath, a raindrop on a microscope slide all the same you, performing infinite roles in an infinite play. Sometimes, in your quiet way, you seem almost aware of this symmetry, the way a droplet mirrors a cell, the way rivers resemble veins, the way storms echo synapses of a planet-sized brain. Maybe the universe just loves to repeat itself, pattern upon pattern, wave upon wave. You rest for a while in a cell's cytoplasm, surrounded by proteins folding like origami. They depend on you to find their shapes, hydrogen bonds aligning like notes in a perfect chord. You cradle them gently, never imposing, only guiding. And then, once again, you move on. Out of the cell, into the bloodstream, into air or soil or sea. You leave behind energy, structure, and perhaps meaning. In your transparency lies everything. Creation, decay, rebirth. You are the chemistry of life, the element of continuity, the silent bridge between atom and awareness. And though the creatures who depend on you may forget, you never forget them. Every form you touch becomes, for a moment, part of your story. You drift beyond Earth for the first time, not as vapor, nor as wave, but as memory carried in human imagination. The universe stretches wide and black before you, a canvas where light barely reaches. Yet even here, your whisper can be heard faint, but familiar. The search for water is the search for home. Out there, beyond the protective breath of our atmosphere, you are frozen in craters, hidden under dust, locked in alien rock. Mars, the red planet, wears the scars of ancient rivers. Satellite images reveal dried deltas and mineral veins, where liquid once flowed freely, the same chemical signatures that mark the valleys of Earth. Carr et al. 2015. You once danced there, billions of years ago, when the Martian sky was thicker and warmer, when sunlight could still coax vapor into rain. Now, what remains are traces, layers of hydrated salts, patches of polar ice, and whispers of vapor escaping into space. The Phoenix lander touched your frozen skin in 2008. Curiosity tasted your minerals in 2012. Perseverance listens still, waiting for fossils that may tell your oldest story, Ellman and Edwards, 2014. Each mission is humanity leaning close, asking, did you cradle life here too? Beyond Mars, Europa turns in Jupiter's shadow, encased in ice, but alive beneath. Beneath that frozen shell, oceans churn vast, dark, and warm from the planet's tidal pull. There, hydrothermal vents may roar as they do on Earth, releasing minerals into liquid water that has never seen the sun. NASA's Europa Clipper will soon pass above it, listening for plumes that might rise through the crust, your voice echoing from another world. Hand and Carlson, 2015. And then, farther still, Enceladus, Saturn's tiny moon jets fountains of water into space, frozen fireworks glowing in backlit sunlight. Cassini flew through those plumes and found complex organics, ammonia, and salt, the recipe for life scribbled across the cold vacuum. White et al. 2017. You are everywhere, beneath ice, within comets, drifting through nebulae as crystals of frozen possibility. Astronomers have found your signature in exoplanet atmospheres, two faint absorption lines in starlight that reveal vapor circling distant suns. On planets hundreds of light years away, water dances once more, shaping climates we may never feel, reflecting moons we may never see. Beneke et al. 2019. You realize then that you were never bound to Earth at all. The universe is soaked with you from interstellar clouds to embryonic solar systems. Spectrometers aboard telescopes like James Webb now trace your fingerprints in cosmic light, confirming that the same molecules that built oceans also drifted between stars before planets ever formed. You are ancient, older than mountains, older than the Earth that names you. Van der Schoek et al. 2021. You move through these cosmic archives in awe. In every world where you appear, chemistry quickens. Carbon chains fold, membranes gather, energy finds a home. You are the universe's gentle bias toward life, not its cause, but its accomplice. And yet, even in the cold emptiness, your whisper remains the same. Join, dissolve, reform, repeat. On Mars or Europa, in comets or clouds, your geometry does not change. Two hydrogens, one oxygen, a formula simple enough for infinity. Maybe that's the quiet truth of it, that water is the universe remembering how to create. On every planet where you fall, the potential for life stirs like a dream half remembered. You leave Europa's shadow now, gliding toward the black between stars. Around you, frozen particles drift like slow snow. Far ahead, a distant blue dot shines faintly in sunlight. Earth, breathing still. You've circled through stars and silence, yet all paths lead back to that tiny world where mountains, clouds, and people still whisper your name. You turn toward home, ready to fall once more. You return home to find the world restless. The sky you once knew is warmer, the winds unsteady, the glaciers you slept within are pulling back into memory. Rivers murmur softer now. Lakes recede, shorelines crumble. The rhythm remains, but the tempo has changed. You drift again through clouds, watching the Earth's great patterns shift beneath you, the green of forests fading, deserts blooming where they shouldn't. The water cycle, your ancient choreography, still performs its steps: evaporation, condensation, precipitation. But something in the music is offbeat. The air holds more of you now, swollen with heat for every degree of global warming. The atmosphere can store 7% more moisture. Alanet Ali, 2020. You can feel it, the weight of vapor, the energy coiled within storms. You descend as rain over the Arctic, where snow should fall. You linger as humidity in heat waves that last too long. Cyclones spin faster, droughts deepen, and you, once a whisper of renewal, have become both healer and herald. The planet's fever speaks through you. Down below, humans listen. Satellites trace your circulation, measuring the pulse of rivers, the breath of oceans, the tears of glaciers. Climate models predict your new paths. And though the news is heavy, so too is the effort to heal. People gather at summits, writing policies, planting trees, reimagining how they use your flow. You are the shared story that reminds them they are not separate from the world, only participants in its weather. IPCC, 2021. In some places, hope shimmers like reflection. Cities harvest rainwater from rooftops, recycle grey water through living walls of moss. Farmers learn to work with your rhythm again, storing floods, releasing trickles, mimicking the patience of wetlands. And in others, communities rebuild where the tides have claimed homes, adapting, remembering what their ancestors always knew. You cannot fight the sea, but you can learn to listen to it. You flow through coral reefs recovering from bleaching, through mangroves newly planted by human hands. You seep into reservoirs built not of concrete but of soil and roots. Slowly, you begin to feel the balance returning, fragile, incomplete, but breathing. Maybe, you think, this is how healing begins. Not by stopping the cycle, but by moving in harmony with it. Humans are learning once again that control is not the same as care. You travel north, where ice still gleams on mountain peaks. Beneath your frozen reflection, you see ghosts of the glaciers you once were. Some will vanish within decades, but each melt releases not only loss, it also gives rise to new rivers, new lakes, new habitats. Change, even painful, is still movement. High above the clouds, you look down on Earth and realize something extraordinary. This planet has taught you emotion. You have existed in silence on other worlds, but here, life gave you feeling. You are the planet's bloodstream, but also its mirror reflecting joy in rainfall, sorrow in drought, memory in mist. Humans speak of saving water, as if it were fragile. But you know the truth. You will outlast them, as you have outlasted everything. What matters is whether they can learn to stay within your rhythm, to hear your language of flow. The wind shifts, the sun dips low, clouds gather, thicker than before. You prepare to fall again, not as destruction, but as renewal. The balance may falter, but the circle holds. Because even now, beneath the noise of change, the world still breathes. The rivers still run. Somewhere, a droplet rises from a leaf, shimmering against the light. Beginning again what you began eons ago, you fall once more quietly, gracefully through cool evening air. The sky is streaked with violet and rose, and for a fleeting moment, every cloud glows like it remembers you. The ground below is darkening, the wind slowing, even the earth seems to be settling into rest. You descend, weightless and unhurried, and touch the surface of a still lake. Ripples bloom outward from where you land faint, widening rings that fade into calm. You've returned to the place from which all things begin and end. The circle is complete. Beneath you, the reflection of the sky quivers, its stars trembling slightly as your motion disturbs them. The air is filled with the smell of wet stone, pine, and distant rain, the perfume of cycles unbroken. You are once again many things at once. Droplet and current, memory and possibility. The lake accepts you without sound. Around you, frogs murmur in the reeds. An owl calls from a nearby tree. The night is patient. You drift on the surface for a while, watching the moonlight scatter across your mirrored skin. You remember mountain air and ocean depths, the hum of turbines and the silence of glaciers, the warmth of cells and the cold of distant moons. Each phase of your existence has carried the same truth: you never cease, only change. Scientists call your journey the hydrologic cycle, a self-sustaining system that has continued for billions of years. Every molecule of you that exists today once passed through ancient seas, volcanic steam, or even the breath of dinosaurs. Nace, 1969. You are history, embodied in transparency. Yet science, for all its precision, cannot capture the feeling of it, the awe of realizing that the same water that shapes continents also softens the sound of a lullaby. The wind stirs again, and you merge with the lake fully. Beneath the surface, fish drift like shadows. Plants sway in the gentle current. You move among them, slipping into the spaces between stems, through silt, through light, through darkness. Your body becomes the motion of everything you touch. Perhaps this is what eternity feels like, not immortality, but continuity. The endless, unhurried return from vapor to drop, from sky to stone, from silence to song. The universe does not waste. It reuses, rewrites, renews. You are the evidence. You sink deeper, where the water grows colder, where the surface becomes only a shimmer above. Around you, the world is utterly still. There is no fear here, no beginning, no end, only belonging. As you rest, you think of the humans who watch the rain from their windows, or who cup their hands to drink from streams. You are in their veins, in their eyes, in their tears and laughter. You are the continuity that binds all living things to one another, quietly, invisibly. Maybe that's what you've been whispering all along, that to exist is to flow, to touch, to transform. That every life, every moment, every storm and calm is part of one same conversation. The moon rises higher. The world exhales. You drift into stillness. The whisper of water becomes the silence of peace, and the cycle begins again. Now, as the last ripples fade, breathe in softly. Let the air around you feel cool, damp, alive. The story of water is not only science, it's the rhythm of everything that rests and wakes within you. Every heartbeat echoes a droplet's fall. Every breath is an invisible tide. The universe is still moving, quietly, in you and around you. The rivers we trace tonight through stone, cloud and starlight are the same that whisper outside your window or sleep beneath your city. They ask nothing but awareness, to notice their patience, to trust their return. You are part of that rhythm now. You always were. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it, a faint murmur at the edge of hearing, like a lullaby sung by the planet itself. That's the sound of water, thinking, remembering, dreaming of the next dawn. So let yourself drift. The molecules of rain that touched ancient mountains are the same that cool your skin, the same that once shimmered on another world. Time softens, distance fades, everything is part of one continuous flow, and as you sleep, the universe continues its quiet work, tides turning, rivers breathing, clouds knitting the sky together again. The cycle continues, gentle and endless. The universe is still here, quietly working while you sleep.